Hello guys and gals, and welcome back to another episode of Haunted Gaming, or Creepypastas. This time we take a look at Timesplitters, a Timesplitters creepypasta, which is for the first time we've done one. So what does this Timesplitters 2 limited edition have to do? What is in here and what does it lead up to? Well, sit back, relax, and let's see what Timesplitters 2 limited edition has to offer.
Hello, my name is Thomas Grace, but my friends call me Tom. Like many people, I was a huge fan of the game GoldenEye 007 on the N64. It was an incredibly revolutionary title, and I recommend all of those who haven't checked it out to do so. I'm disappointed that there aren't many shooters this day and age that are in the style that GoldenEye was. So I joined a gaming forum and asked anybody if there was any game similar to GoldenEye out there gameplay-wise. One of the first games that was recommended to me was Perfect Dark, but that didn't really interest me. But what caught my eye was when somebody mentioned a series called Timesplitters. That was practically a spiritual successor to GoldenEye. I looked into the games and found out that all of the games in the series, Timesplitter 2 had interested me the most, as the screenshots of it most reminded me of the glory days of playing my copy of GoldenEye. Mostly in its visual style though. Sadly, I didn't really have any money to blow on such a thing, so I logged off and decided I would look for somebody who was maybe willing to trade one of the games in my possession for Timesplitters 2. I decided to check out what I was in for. I should watch a walkthrough or a let's play of Timesplitters 2. I watched the game's story mode in its entirety and it was very impressive looking. At that point I went to sleep. The next day I woke up with a headache, most likely due to morning sickness, which is not at all pleasant. I turned on my laptop as my eyes slowly adjusted to the light. The familiar sight of the Windows 7 logo appeared on the screen, and I waited for the PC to finish booting up. Once on the desktop, I opened Chrome and checked back to the forum I had joined last night. Apparently I had a private message from someone anonymous. It simply said, "I'm willing to give you something you won't forget." It sounded like spam, but curiosity got the better of me. So, I opened it. The message is pretty standard stuff for somebody looking to sell something, but something didn't sound quite right. Here's a transcript of the message. "Hello Tom, I'm in possession of a copy of Timesplitters 2, and I'm sending it to you as a gift. And as a warning. The last part particularly caught me off guard. I have absolutely no idea how a video game could serve as a warning. In fact, the obscurity of the threat made me laugh out loud. Who could be threatened by a video game? Another thing is that the message looks like it was sent at the exact time I logged off, and although to be fair, it's probably just a coincidence, that's when the doorbell rang. I looked through the slot and saw it was a delivery guy, probably here to give me my mail. He had a box for me and I signed it off. On the box, the words Timesplitters 2 Limited Edition for PS2 were written in Sharpie. And this was odd to me for a number of reasons. One, usually people don't write the contents of a cardboard box on the box itself with huge lettering in what appears to be Sharpie. And, number two, if that info I got from the forum was correct, nothing called Timesplitters 2 Limited Edition even existed. It was probably just a mix-up of the part of the guy who I sent it to, so I shrugged it off. Sometimes people just are out of it when they're tired and do things by mistake, maybe even write something by mistake. I mean, I've done it myself, admittedly. I opened up the box and it revealed what appeared to be a perfectly normal copy of Timesplitters 2 for the PS2, which for the most part confirmed my previous suspicions, that the writing on the box was simply something the sender did absent-mindedly. I took it out of the box and opened the case. Sure enough, the disc was in there. I looked at it happily, mostly because if this was anything like GoldenEye, or even just as fun as it looked like in that Let's Play, the game was gonna just make every moment in the next few days, or even weeks, quite a bit more enjoyable. I took out and booted up the PS2 to my TV, and put the disc in the tray. I booted up to the main menu, seemed normal except the words Closed Beta Build 5 occupied the bottom left of the main menu. And that struck me as odd, but at the same time exciting, mainly because beta builds of games are rare. Even more so with closed betas. For those unfamiliar with the terminology, a closed beta is a beta that is only open to the beta testers, while an open beta, or public beta, as it's called in some cases, is open to larger groups that include non-employees of the company. I pressed through the menu for selecting things such as story, arcade, and challenge, and etc., but what struck me as particularly odd is that it didn't ask me to name my profile. But for a beta, that's normal. Pokemon Ruby's beta comes to mind, where the player was pre-named. I quickly went up and selected the story mode. The cutscene from the finished game I saw in the walkthrough was there. In fact, it looked almost normal. The graphics just looked a little less polished, as is to be expected from a beta version. It's likely they just buffed up the graphics later anyways. It was normal things for developers to do, so that they could buff out the bugs and gameplay tweaks first and then just focus on the final build graphics with the time they had left. Once the cutscene was over, I selected the only choice I had unlocked, Siberia. It loaded up to reveal a level that for the most part looked the same as it did in the final version, a snowy military facility located near a dam. When I started up, however, I noticed a number of changes. One of them was when the cameras located around the base would spot you. Instead of making this loud and annoying squeak noise they usually do, a monotone voice would just say, "You've been spotted," once, and then it just stops. Otherwise, the cameras behaved normally. I made my way to the roof of the buildings as you were supposed to and dropped into one of the storage sheds. I grabbed the mines inside and headed back out to destroy the satellite on top of the largest building there. It was satisfying to see the satellite fly off into the building and over the fence, where it landed in the snow. Unlike in the final game, as soon as the satellite was destroyed I heard a loud bang. I looked at the small trench that you need to move through to get into the stairwell in advance. The door was simply destroyed, the rest of the level appeared to proceed normally until I had reached the part where you release a zombie by restarting the power. Upon inserting the item needed to restart the power, a wall slid to the side as if it were a door, revealing a passageway that was not available in the final game. From the walkthrough I saw at least. I walked inside and what I saw, while not horribly out of place, was quite unnerving. I saw a large hallway that appeared to be some kind of cell block. On every side there are locked doors. Behind them are various enemies from the game. I walked down this hallway, and as I continued to walk further, the screen had got darker and darker. Inside the cells, the further I got, the more desperate the characters seemed. Some of the soldiers were begging, in English, for a reason not to my understanding as the soldiers are Russian, for me to release them. As they had their weapon on the ground, they were banging on the glass. Even further in, the characters weren't even alive. Some were mangled and some were zombies. Upon the screen turning completely black, it suddenly looked normal again, brightness-wise anyways. It appeared to be once more than the player's perspective. Albeit I had no weapons, I was in the middle of a large rectangular room. Dried blood had adorned the walls, tables with surgical tools were lying all over the room, some next to surgery tables with what appeared to be corpses on them. I looked around and noticed a computer terminal in the upper right corner of the room, with a chair in front of it, and as I approached the chair, my character proceeded to sit down without me pressing any buttons. Suddenly a video had played, and I don't mean a cutscene, I mean like a live-action video, and it appeared quite aged, but not too old. I guess it was taken around 1990 or so? On the screen were two surgeons, in a room eerily similar to one the character I was playing has found themselves in. They were standing next to a corpse on some kind of operating table, and it was cut open and its organs were visible. Some kind of large machine was hooked up directly to this creature's heart. The creature was mostly unmoving at first, but suddenly, its eyes opened and it panicked. Even though it had some leather constraints holding it to the table, it tried to move around frantically. It was making loud moans and howls that sounded like the result of terrible, terrible pain. The surgeons suddenly put down their tools and looked to the camera. They started speaking in a somewhat excited tone, but I couldn't tell what they were saying, mostly because I don't speak Russian, and even if I did, the sound of the creature moaning behind them drowned out whatever they were saying. Suddenly, the creature had burst free from its constraints. It grabbed both the surgeons using one arm to repel each and started viciously tearing at them with its teeth. The surgeons fell down, clearly dead from the looks of it. They went pale and limp, and the creature looked at the screen before it cut out. I thought it was over, but suddenly it cut into the view of a large facility, one that looked identical to the game, except it was real. I was almost sure that whatever was going on down here was staged, but that's when it flashed up on the screen, only for a few moments, but it flashed on the screen several times like this, and I had a chance to copy it down. Plus 70, 30 degrees, 36.87, to plus 83 degrees, 4 degrees, 30.65. Even though I'm no expert on navigation, I recognize those as coordinates. After the coordinates had been copied, the game itself was shut off, a power surge had occurred, and once the power was back on, I was more curious than anything, so I decided to ask my friend to check out these coordinates. Luckily, they were already in Russia at this point, so I figured I might as well. They immediately agreed to help me, and that's the definition of dependability right there, let's be honest. Their agreement probably had a lot to do with me not telling them where I actually got these coordinates from. If I told him, he'd probably brush me off and assume that I was either joking or insane, or possibly both. He told me that he would message me once he got there, and we could do a voice call, so it'd be easier for him to communicate and do things with his hands at the same time. And it was about 2 days later that I finally got invited to a call with him. He started off by telling me that all these coordinates, that there was a river and some kind of a dam, surrounded by a few buildings. He mentioned that it's odd, though, considering that his maps do not mention such a thing. He told me that since it appeared abandoned, there's probably no harm in going inside. I heard the sound of a door opening and then his footsteps as he maneuvered around. He told me that the building appeared completely abandoned, yet all the documents, furniture, and even military equipment was still there. It's as if whoever left either did so in a hurry or did not actually care about what even happened to the equipment, a bit careless. He said that he had found some kind of control room and one of the walls there were open, leading to a corridor. He told me that further in the lights just got dimmer. He slowly walked down the corridor, describing to me that the cells appeared to have human skeletons in them. He assured me that while this is grotesque, this kind of thing wasn't unusual, especially during the time of the Soviet Union. He continued walking and told me that it had gone completely dark, and he had come to what felt like a door. As soon as he had said that, I heard the sound of a door opening. He let out a hearty chuckle, and this assured me that he knew what he was doing. He told me that the lighting in there was dimmer, but at least better than in the hallway. I heard his footsteps as he apparently walked deeper into the room. Then I just heard this loud moan and howl. And then, the call ended.
And that was our first Timesplitters creepypasta, and you know what? It's decent. Now, I've never played Timesplitters before, well, anything not significant, so for me it's kind of my first time really playing it and reading a creepypasta about it, which I guess was a breath of fresh air in that regard. Now, the story started out strong and kept its intrigue and used clever mechanics to avoid the tired cliches, or at least turn them around. You know, watching a playthrough allows you to believe that the player knows the ins and out of a game, providing they never played it. It's understandable and natural, and a simple mention can really shake that whole uneasy feeling of cliches, here we go, out of your body. Now, Timesplitters 2 isn't really a military-themed game, as far as I played it. So for them to have a nod to the Soviet Union experimentation is good and bad. Good in the sense that it's described well in the game and in the real life, events of the creepypasta as well, and any phenomenon depicted, or phenomena, could have occurred within the copy of this game, whether it be a beta or a hack copy. It's not out of the ordinary. You could picture it happening in the game. Now, the bad is that it has no reason to be there, because it's not like it's using Timesplitters to deliver this, which is what the story needs, or rather any creepypasta to do with gaming or film or whatever. That's an important factor, and if it's not being addressed, then what the hell? The coordinates at the end were interesting, and looking them up lead to this location in Russia, which is interesting. No facilities are seen, but it's not the first time things have been hidden from satellite imagery. Moving on though, you notice that it leads up to the person being killed by this thing. It's dark and kind of anticlimactic, but it leads you wanting more. Some bad parts here to note real quick is how bad the game is acquired. Some person just sending it off with that weird subject? If you're not questioning yourself then that's highly unbelievable. Anyone I know, and hell, I'm pretty sure anyone you know would question themselves at that point. In the end though, what would you rate this and what would you change to make it better? This has been another episode of Haunted Gaming, and if you liked what you saw, then please like, comment, and subscribe for more content. This is me, Mudahar, and I'm out.